Hey, what's going on? It's GW coming to you live Saturday morning. Hey, listen, couple of things. It was just recently announced that The Stand, Stephen King miniseries, will get a remake. You guys should check that out. No details have emerged yet. I did that review of Sleepaway Camp, a couple of, maybe 2, 3 weeks ago. Anyway, a remake of that is rumored to exist. So y'all should check that out too. It's going to be coming through the pike. But I want to talk to you guys this morning about one of my favorite horror sci-fi movies. And this is a perfect film because it blends the two seamlessly. Stars Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, Kathleen Quinlan, and Jolie Richardson. It's a 1997 picture called Event Horizon. I love this movie to death because, like I said just a minute ago, it combines the two, horror and sci-fi, perfectly. Sets it in sort of well, if you're a video game player, the game Deep Space. You know, check that one out. But basically, in this film, it's 2047. Years earlier, the pioneering vessel, the Event Horizon, vanished without a trace. So this huge starship just disappeared. Gone. And it was gone for quite some time. So some researchers, they detect the ship's beacon. Now, in any sci-fi movie, you guys know that if a beacon is set off, it's either a warning or it's a cry for help. So, Lawrence Fishburne's the captain of the ship going to look for the Event Horizon. Sam Neill was the designer of the ship. And he has, to say the very least, some evil intentions that aren't revealed to the midway point in the film. They have to find and salvage the state-of-the-art spacecraft. But what they find is interstellar terror. Because someone or something is going to pull them in a new dimension of terror. This film is pretty badass, guys, I'm not gonna lie, because it starts off slow, builds up the suspense. By the end of the movie, you're like, what? Whoa, whoa, whoa. And if you ever played the Deep Space trilogy, you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. And Alien was not the only film to make space scary. I think this thing does a hell of a good job. And it also stars Kathleen Quinlan, who's been on multitude of films. This thing is pretty bloody, pretty creepy, and definitely worth a watch if you guys are into the horror sci-fi crowd, like I am. When it comes to my attention, everybody asks me, Greg, what's your favorite B movie? Do you have one? Well, I do actually. I have a bunch of them. Aside from the trauma stuff, the Toxic Avenger, Class of Nukem High, Mother's Day, you know, there is one that sticks out. And they actually made a sequel, guys. And it is a fun romp. It's ridiculous in story premise, but it's called Wolf Cop. I picked this up thinking this was going to be the stupidest movie I ever seen. Turns out it was one of the best B-rated fair movies you could ever buy. Now, it didn't get mainstream distribution. Obviously, no one's going to put together a movie about a wolf and a cop and throw it on some, screen. Now, Sonny Chiba, Street Fighter fame, I believe he did another one called Wolf Guy. You might want to check that out. Could be the same thing. Who knows? This is about Officer Lou Garano. He isn't the best cop in the world. He's an alcoholic. He's probably the worst cop in the world. Probably wouldn't give you a speeding ticket to save your life. He mostly just looks good to avoid anything that could possibly interfere with the goal of getting wasted. Just told you he's a drunk, probably a pot smoker too. I haven't seen this movie in a while, but I do remember bits and pieces of it. When he investigates a disturbance at the edge of town, surprise, surprise, he gets blacked out, wakes up with a pentagram on his chest. heightened by senses and body hair that's growing at an alarming rate, he turns into Wolf Cop, one of the most badass B-movie creations ever. Now, this film was brought to us by Lowell Dean, and it was put out by the Cine Group and Vortex Words and Pictures. It's a short movie, guys. It's about an hour and 19 minutes. That's 79 minutes. They did make a sequel. I haven't seen it, but this one actually is a pretty cool movie. To tell you the truth, it goes where few werewolf movies have gone before. In fact, it goes places no werewolf movie has gone before. But it also, creates a new sort of environment, and it actually is an entertaining, movie. And I'm not talking cheap makeup or anything. This thing looks pretty cool, and I would say it's on the Howling type level as far as werewolves go. Now, with that being said, there's one more slasher movie I do want to cover, and I apologize, guys. I'm really tired. I haven't had much sleep in the last couple of days. This one is a remake. Of course, you can find the older movie. It's called The Toolbox Murders. And I know what you guys are thinking. Okay, so a killer picks up a screwdriver, hammer, and nail gun, goes to town, right? Exactly. However, this one is a pretty creepy affair. Starts with the killing of a girl in the main movie. And you might recognize her. Devil's Rejects fans, Halloween fans, and even Rob Zombie fans will recognize her as Sherry Moon Zombie. Sherry Moon Zombie is in this for about maybe 5 minutes, maybe 6, I don't know. But she gets sliced up. That's right. Baby Firefly gets killed. I don't know what to tell you guys. However, this film deals with some dark material, a coffin birth, a disfigured killer. But I want to tell you guys before I even go into this picture, avoid number 2. I picked it up because I love this film so much. It is garbage. In fact, the fake blood in that thing looks like strawberry syrup you'd buy at the store. So they had like maybe nothing to work with. It was ridiculous. Avoid it at all costs. It looked cool, but it failed on all cylinders here, guys. However, there is a cool scene about a jigsaw kill in here. That's pretty wild. And they actually show it to you in the deleted scenes. They actually cut away from it in the deleted scenes. You guys get to see the full, circular saw decapitation. It's awesome. So let's see what this says. Every year, thousands of people move to Hollywood to pursue their dreams. Some succeed, some go home, others just disappear. This is where this film takes place, in case you guys don't know. There are apartments. They are bad apartments. There are bad plumbing, crazy landlords. And then there's the Lussman Arms Hotel, where all these murders take place. Something evil lives deep inside the building itself. Something linked to the architecture itself. Something that needs to keep killing to stay alive. As you watch this, I'm not going to tell you much about the killer because I already know about him. But I will say the coffin birth thing is pretty wild. And this is pretty good. And this is Tobey's foray into horror. Now, you guys know Tobe Hooper. He did Poltergeist. Steven Spielberg did Poltergeist. He did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He did a movie called Funhouse. He's done a couple other things. And then what did he do? He disappeared. So one of the most famous horror directors in history just vanished off the face of the earth. This picture was put out not too long ago. Wish I knew when. 2004. So Tobe Hooper released this bad boy back in 2004. And until then, he was just making some horror, some other movies, but he hasn't really had a big hit since Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Funhouse. Funhouse is a fun movie. If you guys like, the Friday the 13th style movies where people are getting picked off left and right, check out Funhouse. I believe it's 1984, 1985, could be worse. It's about five guys that sneak aboard an amusement park and they get killed by the monster under the midway. Very cool stuff. But anyway, Toolbox Murders is a remake, and I believe the old one was 1974, 1964. I'm not sure. I have an old copy of it someplace. I don't know. But this one's pretty entertaining. I'm telling you. And like I said, it goes where few films have gone before. So with that being said, we're going to move on to anthology pictures. In every horror genre, some director decides it's a good idea to throw stories together to make a full movie. And it most of the time works, I'm not going to lie. It does. Look at Creepshow. Look at Tales from the Crypt. You know, Vault of Horror, which none of those stories came from the Vault of Horror, to be honest with you. If you look back at the old 74 film, Tales from the Crypt had some of the greatest horror anthology stories you could ever have. Like a guy that's in a car accident and you see the first person view of him. You just see what he sees. And he walks around his apartment or walks around town. People were freaked out. And only at the end do you realize the guy's a zombie. I mean, that's clever stuff. So, one of the most underrated anthology pictures is from a TV show called Tales from the Dark Side. I have the whole set. I've really never watched them, but the ones I did see were very clever. They were almost equal to Tales from the Crypt. This movie though, is pretty sweet. Starts off with a young boy being kidnapped. And you see him kidnapped and he's ready to be cooked in the oven alive. I know, nice way to start a movie, right? It's family viewing. No, I'm kidding. To avoid being eaten, he tells stories to the witch, who's played by Deborah Harry, who stars in a series or a movie called My Life Without Me. Never saw it, don't care to see it, because she made a hell of a performance in this. Now this kid's a paper boy. He weaves 3 stories in an attempt to distract her from what she's doing. First story is called Lot 249. It concerns a mummy and it stars, believe it or not, Christian Slater and Steve Buscemi. Now, Steve Buscemi is a vengeful college student who tries to resuscitate an evil mummy to teach unsuspecting student bodies, played by Julianne Moore. She's pretty famous. And Christian Slater, A Lesson in Terror. It's pretty wild. Then comes The Cat from Hell. This is your classic story of a stray cat living in William Hickey's house, terrorizing William Hickey. William Hickey was a famous actor. He's been on a bunch of stuff. And I think he passed away, guys. I'm not going to lie. But I think this film puts him on the map, because he's done all kinds of films. He actually did an interview one time where he said he loves doing things that are off script. But The Cat from Hell is a very notable story because he's tried to poison this cat. He's tried to kill this cat because the cat's a nuisance and it scares the crap out of him. So what he does, guys, is he hires somebody to spend the night and take care of this cat. The ending, very shocking, very cheesy, very gore-filled, and I think it's right up there. Finally, a story about mythological creatures called Lover's Vow. Stone Gargoyle comes to life to commit murder in this cult classic favorite. That story about the gargoyles, guys, when I was about... When did this come out? 2006 it was put on video, but it actually came out on theaters in 1990. And I remember it was on TV, and I was flicking channels, and I saw the last story. But I had no idea what movie it's from. But the last story is pretty cool. I'm telling you. Now, it's that rubber effect stuff, but it is pretty cool. And if you haven't seen this film, definitely give this film, give it a couple viewings, because it will grow on you. It's not as recognizable, like I said, as Tales from the Crypt. And it's not as cheesy, right? as some of the other anthology pictures. This had a lot going for it, and it also co-stars Ray John Chong, Julianne Moore, as I said, David Johansen, William Hickey, James Remar, Deborah Harry. You know, you guys should check this out. It's pretty good. Won't lie. Now, you can buy the entire series off Amazon. I think I only paid $30 for it, and it's pretty impressive. So there's that. Anyway, we got one more movie to cover since I figured we're on the topic of, you know, monsters. Being that the gargoyles would be a nice place to, you know, pick up. We're going to actually talk about a very, very crazy B movie that could or could not be, at the ending, the start of another horror movie. And has yet to be determined. Now, back in the 80s and early 90s, people were just throwing everything together for horror. Somebody came up with a movie set in 1959, and it was called Night of the Creeps. Now, let's see who's in this. Jason Lively, Steve Marshall, James Whitlow, Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins, guys, was basically the same character in here as he played in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which was a detective trying to find out in that film who was making masks that were going to kill kids on Halloween. You know, as an ancient witchcraft tradition, they were going to try to control Halloween. And if you guys haven't seen that movie, cheesy B-movie level, most people didn't watch that movie because Michael Myers, the staple of the Halloween franchise, was out of it. But what they wanted to do, real quick before I get back to this picture, was they wanted to take Halloween and make it different stories. So you had the Michael Myers escape mental patient. Now let's shift gears to the witchcraft era, and we're going to kill a bunch of kids by selling them masks by a company called Silver Shamrock. And if you guys remember the contract, you know, you guys can remember the commercial for the movie. I'm not going to sing it, but you guys know it. You know, it's Happy, Happy Halloween, Halloween, Silver Shamrock. You guys can remember that. In fact, Richard Christie from the Howard Stern Show listens to that little bit probably 25 million times a day. But anyway, it's a cheesy B-movie level, and what I was getting back to say was Tom Atkins portrays another detective. That must have been his role for a couple movies. He used to say, "Am I a detective?" They say, "Yes." Okay. But this is one of the 80s movies, actually. It did not come to DVD until 1990, my bad. Let's see. One of the most eager anticipated films of the 80s. This was definitely set in the 80s. You can tell when you watch it. You know, cheesy makeup effects, gore galore. You know, all kinds of stuff. When an alien experiment goes awry, it crashes to Earth in 1959 and infects a young college student. 27 years later, his father, cryogenically frozen body, is thawed out by a fraternity pledge. That's right. Now I'm starting to get this. In order to get into this fraternity, they had to do something really stupid, which is mostly the case in these college films. He actually unleashes this cryogenic tube of his dad, and basically his dad's infected. So what happens? The whole campus, you guessed it, becomes infected. And it's up to Tom Atkins and a couple kids to save the day. Now, whenever these kids die, they come back as zombies. Now, Fred Dekker did this. Fred Dekker also did a movie called The Monster Squad, which I saw in theaters. And it was cute. Fred Dekker wanted to... He always did things that were a little cheesy, and he tried to put things in there for everybody. But The Monster Squad, if you guys haven't checked it out, it's pretty good. It's about Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman, all your classic Universal horror movie monsters. They come to life, and it's up to the kids to stop them. Now, the main kid in that film, in the storyline, he's a descendant of the late, great Van Helsing, who did what, guys? Destroyed Dracula. So now Dracula comes back to get his revenge. It's a pretty crazy film. Didn't do much at the box office. I saw it with a girl named Samantha Carl Antonio. She took me. She was babysitting me. I saw it. Had a hell of a good time. And It finally came out on DVD, probably at the same time this did. So if you missed it in theaters, definitely check out the Monster Squad. Now this throwback, this mixes again horror and sci-fi, obviously. All sorts of I can't even talk today. All sorts of genres, and simultaneously having fun with them in a college, and leading the characters that are named after famous horror movie directors. So again, this is basically a love letter to the fans. Fans like horror. Fred said, hey, we're going to throw everything together. This is for you guys. He also attributed the people that he admired in here by the names. I do remember that. This action-packed release contains the ending Fred Decker always intended. As an added bonus, the theatrical ending is included. So this thing did have two endings. And I remember seeing this, watching this upstairs for a little while. And I do remember that it could have been, the ending could have been the unofficial start for Night of the Living Dead. That's what they always said. You can go on the internet and check it out. I mean, basically, they tell you this. So reach out and grab this treat. Well, fire up the DVD player and throw this in. Not a bad movie. It's kind of schlocky, kind of cheesy, but definitely worth checking out. And it goes underrated. I mean, you ask people, what's your favorite horror movie of the 80s? Most people are going to say something along the lines, Friday the 13th, maybe Jaws 2. But they are not going to mention Night of the Creeps because it goes unnoticed underneath the radar. It's kind of like Ferris Bueller, the TV show. People know it exists, but they're afraid to check it out. So definitely give Night of the Creeps a try. I really enjoy it. And that's basically that. What was I going to talk about? I was going to mention one more thing. What was it? Oh, I know what it was. If you guys go and if you guys follow Three from Hell the way I do, you will see the leader of the Black Satans. Rob Zombie posted an Instagram of it. In the trailer, he's the guy shooting a machine gun. How he fits into the story, we don't really know. The only thing that disappointed me about that, was that instead of doing a worldwide release, which I still hope is coming, they're doing a 3-night movie release, limited run. And the only good thing is if Rob Zombie does put that out in limited run, then you're going to see the Blu-ray, the DVD come out quicker than you normally would with a theatrical run. Also, if you guys are following track and you guys saw Avengers Endgame, I did not, that whenever they do the home release, there's a big rumor circulating that what's going to happen is that they're going to put some of the deleted scenes back in the picture to make it more fleshed out. So if you guys are, I can't wait to see that. But if you guys saw it in the theater and you guys missed something, they are rumored to put it back in there. So it might be worth definitely grabbing. Might be a little bit more pricey, but hey, grab it. I can't wait for the film. After the last one where Thanos pretty much left our characters in disarray, broken, some beaten, I would like to see what happens. And I know people are going to come up to me Monday and they're going to tell me, don't tell me. So that's the only little current advice I have for you as far as the film world. There's really nothing else going on. But hey, you know what? The day is young. It's only about 4:30 in the morning. So we are going to keep watching the world of entertainment. And tomorrow we're going to talk about one of my favorite movies, Boogie Nights. So stay tuned. It's Movie Talk. I'm your host, GW. And I will see you tomorrow.